All right, cool beans. So I set this up kind of the same way you guys have your work set up. You have your locked white background, you have your ref 1, you have your solid BG. And so my ref 1 was here, and I put that there to trace it, right? So I just put my solid BG on top, which is kind of a nice gray color. And then I have my painting layer. And then I have my trace map. So if I were to hide my painting layers, right? So the first thing that I did was I got my ref 1, turned the opacity down, traced it. So here's my trace map. And then once I was done with that, I just locked both, did my solid color BG, which is kind of this like gray color. I don't know if you guys can see the difference there. And then I pulled up a ref 2, and I made my ref 2 nice and big. You can make your ref 2 however big you want and then move it to wherever you want. And I moved it here for this side of the hair because, you know, whatever. And then I started to paint. And then I added another layer on top and I put details on top, right? So the details layer has just kind of, you know, tightening it up. And actually it's easier to see if I do that. And then in the details layer, I put these arrows in here, but don't feel like you need to do that or anything. It was just so I can kind of show the direction, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to hide details, I'm going to hide painting. I'm going to go back to my trace map. I'm going to turn off ref 2, turn off solid color BG, unlock trace map, lock everything else that's not trace map. And I'm going to trace this side of the hair because we're going to do that side of the hair now, right? Oh, before anything else, I'm going to version up because I don't have a death wish and I want to make sure that heart attacks are prevented later on the line. So V2 hair demo. Ha, I am safeguarded. Fabulous. So I'm going to grab a nice darkish color, opacity all the way up, turn my size down pretty tiny, and then making sure my trace map, beautiful. I'm going to sort of just grab this overall shape. And again, I'm not really thinking about drawing hair at this point. I'm thinking about giving myself as much information as possible so that when I turn on my solid color BG, I'm not completely lost in having to guess stuff. So like doing this kind of thing doesn't help anybody. You want to make sure that you give yourself lots of info for where to put stuff. So I'm going to just give an overall kind of shape here. Beautiful. So I have my overall shape, and now I'm going to kind of squint my eyes and figure out, okay, here is all much lighter, and then here it's a lot darker, so she has like some roots kind of on this side here. It kind of like fizzles outwards, and I'm periodically squinting my eyes and making sure that I'm able to follow where the darks are. The darks are kind of here. And then there's like a middle color happening kind of here. And a middle color going on here. And then she has like 2 open bits right there. And then she has like a highlight here and here. And then a really dark area right here. So pretty much what you guys have been doing this whole time, you know, you're trying to separate as much as possible the lights from the mids and from the darks. Because the more information you put here, the less guesswork you have to do later. So this over here is pretty much black. So feel good. And then there's like sort of a middle area, pretty clearly delineated there. And then darker spot right here. Lighter and then darker. And even though, like, if I turn off my reference layer right now, you're going to see that it's hard to tell what's light and what's dark. But at least if you do, like, the dark part close to the ear and just count outwards, it's going to be really obvious. You can just count it out. So I'm going to keep going to my light areas here. And this applies to metal, to water, bubbles, you know, wet fruit. I'm literally focusing on just areas of light and areas of dark, not concerning myself with hair because that would make my head explode and nobody wants that. And then there's like a super little dark pocket here, dark pocket there. And I think that's pretty much it. I think that's kind of what we got here. That's the sort of tracing there. Turn my solid BG on, Awesome. Her hair is there. So I'm going to go back to my painting layer. Turn on, I'm going to unlock my painting layer, lock my tracing layer, turn on Ref 2, but because I'm doing the other side, I'm going to unlock Ref 2 and then move it over and put it like here-ish. And I'm going to magic wand right there, get rid of that. Because now I can clearly, quickly see, you know, everything that I want from this side, and I can paint it over here. So I'm going to lock that, go back to my painting layer, and I'm going to save, of course, because saving often is life insurance, all that. V3. Beautiful. Now, first things first, I'm going to block the coloring. So I'm going to squint my eyes at her and figure out, okay, her hair, generally, if I had to do a cartoon of her, I wouldn't pick this dark color to be her hair color or this light color either, because it's somewhere in between. It's probably somewhere in this neighborhood, I'm guessing, right? So if I had to pick a hair color for a cartoon version of her where I was only allowed to use one color, I would pick something in this neighborhood. So like here, or even like here, something nice, vibrant red color. Then I'm going to grab my pen tool, and again, my painting layer, 100% opacity, and I'm literally just going to chunk this in. Nothing special, just getting myself a nice solid background color. All of you guys have done this. This should not be news. And I'm just painting this in. And because I'm on a separate layer, doesn't matter if it's like, whoo, I can always fix it later, you know? So I'm just gonna chunk this in, giving myself some lovely color context because I was dumb and I chose a reference image with sort of a white background, which is just confusing to you guys because you don't really see that in nature. And painting on white is not usually the way to go because it doesn't look natural, but bear with me. Okay, so then I can kind of, if I wanted to, come back and clean up. I'm just in my regular eraser tool. Just give that a bit of a cleaning because I'm a little anal retentive. There we go. Okay, cool. So that's my mid-tone, okay? Now I'm gonna go for my, let's go for my lowlights, shall we? So my lowlights are pretty dark. They're almost black, right? So I think even some are pretty much black. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab dark color. And now what I like to do, you don't have to do this. Some people like to just go straight in like that, kind of aggressive. I prefer to turn my opacity and my flow down a little bit just because I get a little more control over where this goes. Because it's a dark color, I might even turn it down a little more. So I'm going to sort of just start, you know, kind of lightly telling myself where dark goes. And again, I am not being all that precious about it. I'm sort of just snapping that in there. And again, I am not thinking about hair right now. I'm thinking about two things. What I see on the reference in relation to the map. That's all that matters. Map and reference. And then she's all dark in this area here. And then down in her side, like her ear against her neck, it's all dark. And I can always come back and darken it more. I'm just kind of blocking in some of these colors. And then it's pretty dark over here. So let's darken this up. This is literally what I did on the other side, you guys. So the other side is identical steps. And then I see a little darkness right here. This kind of pulls up a little bit. And then there's a little bit of darkness here. This all looks pretty dark. And because I made a map for myself, I am 0% guessing.com right now. I'm literally just following what I put for myself. Dark, dark, dark. This is all pretty dark too. This is super dark down here. And then dark along the bottom here. Dark there. Let's see where else. This is all pretty dark. And darkness, nothing. pretty dark over here as well, and here. And because I'm in this territory of kind of like getting a little bit lighter, I might not darken it quite so much. I can always mess with it later, so that's pretty cool. Okay, so it looks like I got kind of mostly, that in. Let's grab some highlights, shall we? I'm gonna go here, grab the highlights, and again, my opacity is pretty low, which is cool because I can get more control. And I'm making sure, you guys, to not do this, right? When you're painting things like hair or grass or whatever, you want to make sure that your direction is logical. So let me actually do something. When I'm painting up here, the hair is going to kind of go this way. Oops. Go back on. My hair is going to kind of go this way. And then this is going to sort of like loop and then come back out like that. So this is going to kind of like flick upwards. You want to make sure that you're following generally the direction of the hair. So this is like, and this is like, and the same with here, kind of like that. Sweet. So I'm gonna grab the highlight again because I lost it. Bam. Brush. Opacity. Low. Low. So because my hair is doing this, I don't want to paint like this. Okay. So let me just do this again. Because my hair is doing this, right? This. Hey, Stinky, come here. Sorry, my cat talked to my dog once in a while. You don't want to paint your hair like this. You want to paint it in the direction that it's going. So like that, if that makes sense. So you want to do like this. Never like this when you're painting hair or grass or whatever. Stinky, did you get bit? Did you deserve it? She might have. My dog pestered my cat and then she wondered why she gets bit, right? Terrible. Highlights. Bam. Opacity. Well, now it's start laying the same. So I'm going to kind of gently start giving this some direction. And I see some lights here. And some lights here. And that's all there, here. And then I see some lights here. And actually, this is a hole, so I'm going to just erase from that. And that's a hole too. So I see lights here and here. Definitely loads of highlights up here. This is a Pantene Pro V commercial. Pretty basic. Nice hair though. Okay, and then some highlights down here. Highlight here. Now, if you're looking at it like this, it looks pretty trash, right? So I'm gonna take off my trace map. You know what I mean? It's like whatever. It looks like a calico cat. But if you just add a few more things on top of this. So now this is the chunking done. Now we're going to go to blending and refining, right? So let's turn my trace map back on. Here's where the fun happens. When you start blending, you're going to start getting in between colors and giving it more transitions, right? And kind of tightening things up. So I'm going to go back to my super darks. Actually, I'm going to grab this dark here, which is pretty much black. Make my brush a little smaller, and I'm going to start giving some definition. And I'm still inside my painting layer and not in my detail layer because I'm not really giving strands quite yet. This is me still in the blending phase. I'm just kind of helping the eye sort of like give limits to where the colors are. So for example, in here, it's pretty dark. So I'm going to sort of delineate that right there. And that might be a little aggressive actually, but that's okay. I'm going to pass it down a tiny bit. I see a super dark area right here. And again, not thinking about hair at all. I'm just trying to like squint my eyes and figure out, okay, where do I see darks and how does it compare to mine? So there's some darks here and up here. And it's kind of like, and I'm trying to go in the direction of the hair. So I'm flicking it like where I'm seeing. So I see some darks in this, like super darks in this corner. It's pretty much black right here. Fix around. And as you can see, with every new layer of color that I put down, which I can always change, whether like if I find that later it's too dark or too light, I can always go back and change. That's the beauty of Photoshop, especially if you version up often, you can really modify and get away with a lot. So I see a lot of black here. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm taking the power away from the sketch and then putting it back in the painting. So let's grab sort of a dark brown. So now this dark brown, instead of black, is going to start also delineating, but I don't want to use dark brown to delineate everything because the dark brown next to the super light color won't look right. So there. Let's darken this a bit. And you can see that I'm sort of flicking these like strands up and out to give this sort of like volume shape. Yeah. And let's make a new layer now. I think I'm getting into details territory. Now with the details territory in, I can even hypothetically get rid of my sketch layer. Yeah, totally. Because now what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start kind of interlacing. I'm going to start interlacing the strands together. So illustrators, when they're doing things like hair and like a tree trunk or tree bark material or veins on a leaf, don't feel like, unless you're like going for photorealism, don't feel like you have to draw every single strand. That's dumb. You're going to be there forever. You want to find ways to make this faster for yourself, right? So the task now is to blend this with what looks like strands. So I'm going to grab this here. I'm going to bring my opacity up a little bit, make my brush a little smaller. And I'm going to start just laying down these areas. And because my opacity is low, it's going to start really light and then get darker as I go, right? And I just want to go by sections, giving this direction. And you're going to see that it's, you know, still not looking amazing, but with every kind of strand that I put down, it's going to start looking less and less like blobs and more like hair. Shiny. And then I can grab this sort of like reddish brown down here and then start pulling the other direction. You know, it's like a dance, going up and down and back and forth and making sure that the transitions look organic. And still not thinking about hair at all. I'm just trying to figure out where I'm seeing the lights and darks. The meditative dance of going between the different colors that I see. And when I pick colors, I'm not really nervous about picking from the wrong spot. I'm sort of just generally picking because it's hair. So, you know, the colors are all in the same family. There's going to be different spots and different lighting, of course, but you can get away with a lot with things like hair. And if you look closely, it's far from perfect, but every strand that I add starts tricking your eye more and more. Do you guys see that? And I'm sampling from over here, but I'm painting over here. You know what I mean? You have quite a lot of room for, shall we say, interpretation. And I personally find this all very relaxing. I don't know about y'all, but I could put on the Run Lola Run soundtrack, go to town, no one to bother me, no worries. Hakuna freaking Matata right now. This is like Friday afternoon delight. And I have to keep saying this, I am not worried about hair right now. I'm literally just sampling and painting and sampling and painting. Does anybody have questions about hair that you would like to ask me? You saw that it went from looking ratchet to all of a sudden it started to look like hair. Yes or no? Did you guys see that? Kind of, maybe, anybody? Hello?
Yeah.
Does anybody want me to show anything again for hair? Or are you guys okay? That makes sense, kind of, sort
I
of?
have a question.
Tell
You
me.
know how like when you were doing like the little line to the hair and you switch between the light and the dark color and you were doing it in opposite directions? What happens if you do it the same direction?
What do you mean?
Because like you said you did like when you drew the stroke you drew it down, the other one you drew it up kind of thing.
Oh, I see. Okay, okay. So, how do I explain this? Let me grab a completely different color over here. So if you have a chunk of hair like this, right? So if you were to look at, I don't know if you can see my hair. My hair is pretty dark. Okay, okay. Do you guys see this little like curl right here on my hair? My hair is brown, but it's going to be like almost black against my root and then almost like a light brown at the highest point, and then it goes back to black again at the bottom. That's how your eye can tell that my hair has like movement. It's like whoop, right? So if you look at Kim's picture, you're gonna see her hair is black, right? And close to her scalp, it's like black, and then right around her eye, there's like a section of lightness, and then it gets dark again. That's telling your eye that her hair is curving out and then back down again, right? So when you're doing highlights on hairs, you want to focus on this area right here as the highlight, right? Which is, up. So what I like to do is I'll do my shadows. I'll start my shadows concentrated here and then kind of pull them down this way, like this. And then I'll do shadows from the bottom as well, because this really helps give your hair like, it's one piece, but it's also, you can tell that it's, it's like a chunk of material, which is many, many individual strands. And then if you wanted to add a highlight, right? So I don't know if you did like a lime green highlight. I don't know how this is gonna look. Let's do a yellow highlight. If you want to do a highlight, instead of pulling from here, if you start pulling from here and then going down, you're gonna get a concentration of yellow in the wrong spot, right? But if you do the opposite, where you concentrate your highlight in the middle here, and then you start pulling up and then pulling down here, when you're, so okay, at least for those Wacom users, right? If you're using a Wacom tablet or like a pen on your iPad, the first spot you put the pen is gonna be the thickest, and when you flick, it's gonna be the thinnest. Do you see that? Let me make it bigger so you can see. So the first spot you put your pen, it's gonna be thick and it goes to thin when you like let go. And so you wanna put your pen at first where your shadow is gonna be. So shadow, or the concentration of color. And then for the highlight, you're gonna do the opposite. You're gonna put it, I want it thickest here, I'm gonna flick upwards. So it's like, so it tapers off. It needs to taper off where you want it to be the weakest, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, cool.
So basically if you start in the center then it gets like more of the yellow there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Otherwise you're gonna have like, if you start the opposite, you're gonna have like chunky to chunky, and it's not gonna, I mean, of course, if you do enough layering, it's gonna be fine eventually, you know what I mean? It just adds a step to your work. And one of the things that I want to teach you guys is efficiency, so you spend less time and more product. Okay, good question, Kim. Any more questions, you guys, about hair? Or are you guys chilling? Does this make sense? ¿Hace sentido? you want me to show anything again? Okay. Let's do some fur. Now, fur is a little trickier because your brain's gonna be like, there's so many little pieces. I don't get it. There's so much to think about, blah, 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 blah. Don't freak out about fur. So let's grab fur. Fur works in almost the exact same way as hair, right? Fur needs to be stylized though, even more so than hair in a way. Hair, you can get away with it looking pretty realistic and not use too many of your time resources on it. Fur, not so much, because instead of fur being sort of this one moving piece that sort of like goes all together, you know what I'm saying? Fur is short, so it ends and it usually goes in many different directions, and there's a lot of light that hits it. And so yes, fur it needs to be approached in a different way than hair, but executed in a similar way. And let me show what I mean. So again, I have solid white background. I got my rough layer, rough one, that I turned my opacity down. I did my sketch, right? And I'm going to sketch the other side for you so you can see my sketch here. I probably did a little too light. Well, whatever. And then I did a solid BG, so there you can see that. And then I put the painting, right? So what I want to do is, and here's my rough too. So it's literally the same steps as everything that we're doing. And by the way, guys, just as a reminder, the reason why I'm showing you this is because we are approaching the last step of our intro to color projects. So you're going to grab the intro to color assignment that you did. You're going to grab the comments that you received from your classmates, which were awesome. And then you're going to grab what I'm teaching you today, and you're going to add the little last details. So the glint in the glasses, the shine on the lips, the wetness of the strawberries, the gleam in the hair, you know what I mean? The bubbles, whatever you got to add. You're going to do a little salt bay and then finish up your piece. So first things first, I'm gonna turn off my solid BG, turn off my painting. I might even turn down my rough layer a tiny bit more so we can all see a little bit better. So I'll go back to my trace map, lock everything that's not my trace map because I don't want to be painting or tracing in the wrong spot. I'm gonna grab my sketch, make my brush the tiny. Okay, so I'm gonna approach this in a tiny different way. So I'm gonna make sure that I have the outline of where her face is pretty clear. And I want to make sure that I'm giving myself as much info as possible without going crazy. But these outside ones are important because it tells me the sort of general direction of where all this is going. Okay. And then it looks like we have some overlap here. So we have this chunk and then that chunk. And it's kind of coming out. And then we have like some floofs here, one big one here. And then this out here generally is her hair. So I kind of want to just ignore that. Just give it sort of like, oh my gosh, hair is so much easier to trace than fur sometimes. Because it's like these continuous pieces, it sort of makes sense, you know? Okay. So once you're inside here, so if I were to like hide this now, right? This outline doesn't really tell me all that much. So we got to go back and make things easier for ourselves. So if I squint my eyes, I'm going to actually turn my thing down a little bit. I want to give myself as much information as possible about the color first and foremost. So if I were to look at this, I'm going to outline kind of just generally. And actually, tip for you guys, you could even outline in a completely different color, especially if you're going to be doing something that's not something that you want to specifically color in for detail. But the highlights I'm going to put in green so that I know that that's a completely separate color. And then the mid-tone is kind of all of this actually, so I'm not even going to delineate that. I'm going to come in and delineate just the dark spots. So I see a lot of darkness here, here, darkness there, similar here. And I'm not going for individual strands at all. I'm going for areas that I'm seeing that look darker. Okay. And then I can come back to my sort of brownish color. And then I'm gonna get my brush even tinier, and then I'm gonna start outlining the direction of some of the tinier ones. Now, it's really important that as illustrators, you guys start figuring out where on the spectrum of detail you want to be. Some artists are obsessed with detail and they want to go full crazy and photorealistic or whatever. And some illustrators, particularly ones that work in vector art, and we're going to go over that in the coming weeks, they choose one or two strands and they use that to represent fur. And actually that works out quite well. So you can kind of decide how much detail you want to put in. All right, sweetness. So I'm gonna turn my solid BG layer on, boom, turn my painting on, awesome, and then turn my ref 2 on. So I'm gonna turn off this, lock my tracing layer, turn ref 2 on. I actually want to erase whatever I don't need from ref 2, which is actually quite a lot. Give myself as much info as needed. And then I'm going to move ref 2 over here in a nice convenient area. Awesome. So same exact thing. I'm gonna lock this guy here, go my painting layer. Again, the only thing unlocked is my painting layer. That's what I'm working on right now. I want to grab a midtone. So I'm gonna look at this and figure out it's not this guy, it's not that guy. It's gonna be somewhere in yeah, this range. So if I were to do a cartoon of her and make her like little poofy fur thing one color, it would be this color. Maybe a little lighter, but that's okay. So I'm just gonna super non-committally paint this in. And because fur is definitely blobbier than hair, then I'm gonna kind of start grabbing other colors that I see. So I see a sort of lighter color over here. And let's kind of blob that in. Kind of along this ridge here, which I mapped out for myself. Thank you, Miss V. And I'm gonna sort of grab this even lighter color. Oops. It's like super light, dang. Dang. I'm not really worried about edges or anything right now. I'm just worried about getting these blocks in. Then let's go for the darks, right? So we got dark, which is almost black pretty much. And then I did this. And there. Okay, that looks pretty trash, right? Honestly, I just blobbed that in. Let's go to blending, shall we? So I'm gonna grab sort of like a mid color, opacity down, flow down, and y'all know the drill at this point. Okay, Photoshop, Jesus, I didn't get it. Oh wait. Because my opacity is now much lower, I can start getting these nice transitions in just by sort of like tapping and playing and going back and forth, you know, no big deal. No big deal, easy peasy. And it's fur, so it's gonna be super blobalicious. You know, it's not gonna be a lot of direction in the pieces. It's gonna be pretty back and forth, you know, kind of just eyeballing where you see some dark edges here. And again, I'm gonna hide my trace map. Still looks pretty trashy. That's okay. So I'm gonna blob it around. Got some of this red. Nice. This nice red. Pull this in a little bit. Blend that edge down. Trying to lessen too, you know, some of these, like this looks darker right there. So let's pull in some darks. Oh, it's too dark. Go back. Go back. Let's paint right on top of it. You know, I'm pushing and pulling the darks with, and now I can turn off my trace map, I think, pretty safely. So I got that kind of going. Yep. And okay, so now it's similar with the hair. So you see how like you have the blobs kind of down. Then similar with the hair, I'm going to add a detail layer. Detail. And I'm going to grab this one in black color. And I'm going to start detailing some stuff in. So she has these like kind of strands that come off. Oops. Here. I need to get rid of this blob, it's too dark. That's okay, I can always come back. And then she has kind of like a darkish outline happening right along her face here. So that's pretty clear. And then there's two pieces that sort of come up and they're pretty dark here, and then they get light at the bottom. So we grab this color and then chunk that in. And then go back to dark. And I see have more dark here, and then these two pieces. And this is where it gets a little more important to kind of like pay attention to where little details are, because it really helps make the piece pop, right? And then it looks like these little fuzzy edges here are kind of brought to life with some directional fuzzy slices. So I can clean up the painting layer a little bit. And again, I can go back to that anal magenta stuff later. And then I'm going to grab these light colors and I'm going to start detailing in these little strands that I see maybe here. I see a couple here, here, and here, over here too. Now, for those of you working with a mouse, this is entirely possible as well. It's just going to be a kind of a different work process in the sense that you're not going to be able to tap so much. You're just going to be more judicious about where you click. So you can see like the kind of fruit this is. I don't know what kind of fruit this is. Probably some sort of endangered jungle cat, I'm guessing. Hopefully it's fake, but it starts off golden at the bottom and then it gets black at the tip. So you're not going to see that with all the areas, but you'll definitely see it with some. Let's see. And then when you start kind of getting you know, all this fluff in. And you can go back to your dark colors. And then see, it's just a back and forth dance. That actually might be too dark right there. So I'm going to pull up some of this lighter color. Tone this bad boy down. Okay. And as you can see, I'm not worried about using the exact same 3 colors over and over again. I'm sourcing from wherever I need to and then going from there. Anyway, y'all get the idea. And then eventually it's going to start getting super close to, I don't want to waste any more of your guys' time. It is 4:20. Wait, it's 2:20? Is class over?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. My bad. Sorry about that. Does anybody have any questions? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I like went on and on and on. Does anybody have any questions? Was that kind of sensical? Does that make sense? Kind of, sort of?
Yeah.
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 Amazing. So your assignment for the weekend is to put little finishing touches on your piece. And then next week we'll start on our final for the grading period. Have a great week. See you on Tuesday. Adios. Love your presentations. Bye, guys.
Bye, Ms. V.
Bye. Have a good weekend. Do you guys have questions? You okay?
Yeah, I had a question.
Tell me, honey.
Okay, can I share my screen?
Yeah, go for it.
It's about blending. Okay, so
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I have a separate blending layer like right here, but like I don't know how to like blend it because like it doesn't like affect the layer underneath. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. So what you're gonna do is turn on color F2. And then, yeah. So then you're gonna turn on blending layer. And then you're gonna hit your color sucker, or the eyedropper thingy move over. Yeah, and then pick a color that's between those two. So like in the shadow, in the color F layer. Oh, in the color F layer.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna zoom in.
Okay, you can just hit Command or Control plus or Control 0.
Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't do anything. Wait. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So then you see in the shadow in the color F2, just pick a color that's between the darkest and the lightest. So that's your painting. Go to color F2. Oh no, that like on your image. So
What?
that's your bucket. Go to your image.
Oh.
So move your mouse to the left. Right there. Yeah. So go to so put Well, child, go back to there you go, right there. So up, yeah. So pick a color that's between the lightest and the darkest of your shadow. Yeah, right around there is good. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to your brush tool and then turn your opacity down to like, I don't know, 60% or something. It's up in the toolbar. So like if you look up, you're gonna see mode, normal, opacity, flow. You wanna turn your opacity and your flow down to like 60%. Yeah. And those are totally up to you. You can change those too. And now because your mouse is like light now, you can even make it lighter. That's how you blend 2 colors together. Now it looks like maybe the lighter color that you picked of the 2, it's still a little dark.
Okay.
Essentially, that's how you blend. You're gonna get 2 colors that are like hard up against each other, and then you're gonna find an in-between color, turn the opacity down, and then just gently lay it in. And if you do it right now, if you just gently like keep tapping it over and over again, eventually it's gonna start. You're gonna stop seeing a difference.
Okay.
You see it like how it's happening?
How do I blur it?
That's how you blur it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the blurring happens with a gentle overlap of like two solid colors with a third in between color, low opacity. So you're going to put the most strokes in the middle and then less and less strokes as you go out, and it's going to kind of blend the two together.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Save often. Save.
Oh yeah, okay. Bye. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend. Do you guys have questions?
Yeah, I had a question about wait, let me share my screen. Hold on, give me a sec. Um oh, let me zoom out. Give me a sec. Yeah, so for the blueberries, like if you look at it, it's like they kind of have like all these tiny little blue darker dots on them, like the spotty kind of parts
Yeah.
of the blueberry. And I was thinking like if I tried to draw every single one of those individually, it would take too long. But like if I leave it as it is right now, they don't like look that natural without the spots. So I was wondering if there's like something I can do that would like wouldn't be as time consuming that but it would still like help make it look more natural.
Yes, absolutely. Pick like the 2 or 3 berries closest to the camera and then really punch up those details, and those kind of like carry the weight. So I would focus on the blackberry and then like
Uh-huh.
2 blueberries. Just pick 2 blueberries, like 2 of the bigger ones closer to the camera, and then
Okay.
go to town on those this weekend, and then you're gonna be chilling.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
And then like the rest of my hair is just leave
Yeah,
them.
yeah, because the 2 main ones will sort of will carry it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you'll
okay.
you'll see what I mean. You'll see what I mean. You'll be like, oh, okay, that carries it. Like whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
And it'll make you get faster. So you might even have some stamina to add more later because you'll like have, shortcuts. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
focus on the blackberry and like 2 blueberries and you're gonna be chilling.
Okay, thank you. Wait,
Have
you
a-
said next week we're starting on a new project, right? You said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, alright. Have a nice weekend, Miss
Have a good
V. Thank
weekend.
you.